Right, first of all, Sousa is back. He won the 1,000 guineas on Sunday. Obviously, the last instalment of this show took place before that, after his 10-month ban in Hong Kong for betting-related infringements. He is very much back. Callum, you can, from a jockey's perspective, comment on this. I guess one thing that has come out with Sylvester, he's a former champion jockey. He was winning his first classic on Sunday. We know how talented he is, but also willing to come back to sort of get those feelers back out, to make contacts, which he's done well with Roger Varian, and just work very hard.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, we probably didn't need reminding of his quality as a rider, but he's done that anyway. And it must be very different coming back from Hong Kong. You know, probably, well, I was going to say easy. I know that there's difficult sides to it. They have to do their own sort of agent work and a lot of track work and things like that. But you know, not that much racing, a lot less travel and things. So it's to come back and have to get stuck in again for someone who's achieved so much already is a testament to him, and he means business, doesn't he? He's a very good rider.
Yeah, he was coming back with no guarantees. He was saying. Absolutely,
43 years old. As a rebuilding job, if only all construction workers were this quick. You know, to come back, it was a race that Sylvester de Sousa got his tactics absolutely spot on. You know, we saw Ramatuelle, who was possibly a doubtful stayer. Aurélien Lemaitre was pretty handy with her, I thought. Obviously, we also saw Tamfana finish from the back with less luck in running under Jamie Spencer into fourth. But yeah, he's a class act. He has been for years and years. 3 champion jockeys titles. Obviously spells with Godolphin, spells with King Power Racing as well. And I'd be very interested to see how Sylvester de Sousa goes with regard to a jockey's title bid in 2024. He might decide it's not for him, but he's really hit the ground running after a difficult time of it in Hong Kong, which it was by his own hand that he blew it and got that 10-month ban. But it's great to see him back here and great to see him riding so well and to have that success.
City of Troy. So late on in the week, I think I was in on Thursday. We did a little look ahead to some Derby betting with whichever bookmaker was powering our coverage that day, and 4-1 joint favourite was City of Troy, Jack, which I sort of, thankfully our chairs here are ludicrously big in the studio, so I didn't fall out of it. But I could have done, because, this horse was trimmed back in from 6s to 4s off the back of Aidan O'Brien saying, we're planning to go for the Derby. Yeah. I can't believe there's anyone out there backing a horse at 6-1 who's just completely flopped in the Guineas. But I guess they did it last year with a different type, different stamp of a horse. Jack, what do you think?
No, 100%. I think if from a punter's point of view, I don't think you could back him at that price. But Aidan's proven he can do it before. He believes, and the Ballydoyle team believe, that he is that good, and they can get him back. So I think you'd be foolish to completely write them off. But no, look, if I was having my tenner on, it certainly wouldn't be at City of Troy at 4-1.
I think it's great that's where. I don't want to sort of take away from his. It's just a price comment that I was making. I can't believe he's as short as he is off the back of that. However, I think it's great for the race. It's fascinating that is where they then intend to go.
I completely agree with you, Tom. I was writing stuff on Thursday for Friday, and he'd taken over at the head of the market at 7-2, and I thought, I can't believe this. Yeah. And essentially it did happen 12 months ago, and we're both setting ourselves up for a nasty fall here if he wins at Epsom. But it does, you're essentially taking 7-2 about lightning striking twice, even though it's Aidan O'Brien that's conducting the lightning. Not for me personally.
No, but with a deep impact last year, who he would have a consistent history of horses improving at 3. I don't know. There's just a very different feel to this horse, and I think when he was walking around the paddock, Lydia and Martin at Newmarket, we all sort of said he wasn't necessarily an absolute knock your eye out. One of the great things about him walking around, he looked very calm, maybe even too calm, maybe even too switched off. I don't know. But that was largely the positive. But
yeah, full marks to everybody who said this horse. Lydia said you wouldn't write on your race card has done well.
Yes.
Francesca Cumani did the same on ITV, and full marks for people who before the fact were saying, right, well, this, you've got Rosalien, who is significantly bigger than City of Troy, who hasn't grown very much. Those are really good observations, very useful observations to pass on. I think that I've read doubts about whether a mile and a half will be City of Troy's trip as well. I know that they talked about or we in the media talked about the possibility of a Triple Crown bid, but yeah, it's really interesting. When you said, surely people don't want to back this horse at 6 to 1, 4 to 1, but like on the odds comparison sites, it just blew across the way, wasn't it? Well, someone's getting stuck in,
or he's just being trimmed. That's also a possibility. Does he scare you in the Derby? Go on, just say no.
Questions.
Nah.
I think, Aidan O'Brien, who are we to doubt Aidan O'Brien? He's done it before, so he might not be a very compelling, like Jack said, from a punting angle. You can never discount Aidan O'Brien.
Overwatering. This comes up quite often. Is this from a safety point of view? Is this?
Well, it was just Charlie Johnston when Chester watered ahead of Wednesday's meeting. Charlie Johnston spoke to the Racing Post, and I'll read you out a couple of the quotes because I firmly agree with them. It's an annoyance. It's been heavy ground for the last 6 weeks, and as soon as it starts drying, they water. I think tracks interfere more than they need to. It was pointed out that this was the wettest 18 months since the 1830s. Obviously, we were very recently looking at soft and heavy ground on racetracks. And it was pointed out that the BHA directive is to water for good to firm ground. Now, as a trainer, as a jockey, your clients, the owners, surely they want the conditions with the obvious rider of welfare. Surely those conditions should be dictated by nature and not by as a punter, nothing is worse than backing a horse maybe the first race of a meeting and thinking, oh God, they've overwatered.
Well, I think the biggest problem is what Charlie was highlighting is the unpredictability of it. We've all seen, if you get a heavy rainstorm, some of these tracks, the ground can become loose. And the problem comes where if they water too soon to the racing, the top part of the turf can become softer, and then it's rock hard underneath, and it's almost like running on a carpet on a wooden floor, and the ground can actually become loose. So even though it might technically be good, it's not. They're different types of. There's about 10 different types of soft ground, and the problem is. Like I say, when you leave it to nature, at least you know how much has fallen, when it's fallen. Whereas, I've been to racecourse, as you say, Dave. They're calling it good to firm. After the first race, it goes to soft. Yeah. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that's always down to watering, but there's just such an unpredictability. And like I say, I'm all for. I think watering has a massive part to play. It has its place for maintaining ground, but I think they sometimes do it too close to the racing, and it can, like I say, unpredictability is the key word there.
Yeah. Just very quickly, does water ground feel different to rained on ground?
It does, yeah. It's more likely to be loose, like Jack sort of described. I think Clark's the courses can be whipping boys, can be a bit unfair at times, but I think we should water for sort of safety, basically, not preference, and transparency regards ground is very important.
Yes,
I think that's a very good point. Clark's, of course, are.
They do a great job.
We in the media, we can criticise them, and we if you lay into a trainer or a jockey, and the next time you ring them or speak to them on the racecourse, they're at liberty to say, well, you can do one, mate. I read what you said about my ride on so-and-so. But clerks of the course, you can say what you like, and they have to speak to you when you bring them up. So they are the whipping boys to an extent, and it's a very tricky job to do. But as a policy, and the need for consistency is absolutely paramount. Imagine being an owner and you got to race on good firm ground. You've paid for the horse in training. You've rearranged your schedule.
Also for
to
punters,
go to the track. Yeah.
You know that first race will still go down as good to firm.
Absolutely.
You're reading back in the form, that'll say good to firm instead of soft.
Yeah.
Hidden Law tragically losing his life after the dominant performance in the Chest of Ours and immediately after the line as well. I guess the point here, Charlie Appleby mentioned what had happened and the fact that it happened on the path, a slightly visually different part of the track. I guess the main fallout to that is does that need to be looked into? It feels like to cross the T's and dot the I's, looking into it is sensible. Whether or not anything needs to change, etc., I don't know, Dave.
I think it's really difficult. I think it's a question that deserves to be asked. I mean, I don't suppose any of us reads like Animal Rising tweets because basically we believe that they don't really represent the truth in much of what they say. You know, the guy who ran on the track at Epsom when they claimed that the race hadn't started, etc. But I think it's a question that's worth asking. I suppose, you know, it was about 10 strides after the line, that path that we drive in to get to the inner track. It's a rubberised surface and it's covered with grass cuttings, which are a different colour. I don't know. Like, we're not, you know, even though we put the safety of horse and rider at the top of our priority list, we don't have tens of millions of pounds to build an underpass at Chester, at Brighton, at Aintree, etc. I'd be interested to know from the guys, like, how much of a difference, Callum, you would have a really good insight on this, just how much a horse might see a different coloured path and sort of stumble or take a false step.
I mean, it does affect stride pattern. You see them jump the path at Brighton and Lingfield and things like that. Obviously, this is where the pull-up is, which, or just, you know, as you're pulling up, maybe they're slightly more vulnerable there, but it's such a freak incident. It's hard to account for. Like, it was agonising. You could have heard a pin drop in the weigh room. It was horrid, and no one's going to feel that more sharply than, you know, those connected with the horse at Charlie Appleby's. But it's just very hard to account for such a what was a freak incident, I think. And
it's the fact that it's happened. The fact that it happened in that race with a horse as exciting as that going forward just makes it more press-worthy. I mean, it just does. I mean, is your views? I mean, simply freak incident. Nothing to see here, Jack, or... Yeah,
I think it's a freak incident, and like I say, the reason we're talking about it, obviously as much as we are, is because he's a good horse, but, you know, I think irrelevant of that, it's just a very sad situation. You know, we work with horses day in, day out, and it doesn't get any easier. You know, when these types of things happen, it's shocking, but it is a freak thing. You know, it happens with horses. In my opinion, I don't think anyone's to blame. I know we want to find someone to blame, but I don't think there is. I think it's just a very, very unfortunate accident.
Did you want to say something else very quickly, Dave?
No.
Fine. Gambling bill. So this is the Irish gambling bill, Dave, expected to go through as it was intended. Obviously, there was hope with lobbying that some adjustments could be made when put in front of the Irish government, but that's seemingly not going to happen. That is, from lots of perspectives, quite concerning going forward.
Absolutely. You know, on this side of the Irish Sea, we've got affordability checks, and I think that many people, for all that there was a cautious welcome for what was announced a couple of weeks ago, I think many of us still believe, well, we're a long way from a perfect world, that essentially that there are so many flaws in what is coming our way. But of course in Ireland, this is the ban on bookmaker advertising from 5:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. So that obviously involves both racing channels, Racing TV and Sky Sports Racing. This is going through the Irish Parliament. Matty McGrath, an independent MP, was calling on James Brown, who's a junior minister in the Department of Justice, thus far hasn't listened to pleas for racing channels to be exempted from this ban. And again, it's, you know, when you think about, we talk about British racing and the figure of it possibly hitting our industry of 250 million quid over 5 years for affordability checks. The rural economy in Ireland, obviously, huge parts of it rely so heavily on horse racing, and this is going to hit them massively too.
And yeah, well, I mean, it's something that's going to roll on in regards to how it affects what we do on here as well. So we shall see. Marquee Fixtures is up next. This is the front page of the Post today. Lee Mottershead has written a piece. This isn't just Premier Race Day, is it, Dave? This is a bid to sort of package racing, our racing together to make it all the more attractive commercially. Yeah,
this is a really interesting story, an exclusive by Lee Mottershead, about plans for 40 of Britain's super premium fixtures to be formed into a company, and for those essentially to be sold as the rights to those to be sold as a single package. It's a really interesting one in terms of, if you think over since, what was it, 2003-04, that racecourses have got more and more and too much power. This is a very interesting one because the likes of Jockey Club racecourses and Ascot would need to give up their seed control over those races, and it's a very interesting. This is all on the back of a Price Waterhouse Coopers report, and I'd be very interested to see how this develops. So Lee's also written extensively about the early days of Premier Racing.
Where does it leave Premier Racing? Is it?
I think it's according to Lee's piece, it's for after the 2-year trial of Premier Racing finishes in 2026. So again, this is condensing. I think many of us felt that. Well, I can't speak for everybody. I thought 170 Premier fixtures was too many, and that there aren't that many Premier fixtures throughout the year in British racing.
Has it made a difference to your life, to your campaigning in any way, Jack?
I think look, we all want more prize money, and I think there's lots of different ways people try and solve that problem. The only issues I've found with Premier Racing is the timings of it. You know, a lot of them are on a Sunday or Sunday evenings a lot of the time, and it's just very hard to staff from a practical horseman's point of view or horsewoman's point of view. It's just that is a very hard time to get people to go in the industry, especially seeing as they're already working so hard day in day out through the week. Then to ask them, right, I need you to go wherever it may be. It's not just the time they're at the races, but the travel to and from the races. There's just a lot of those are the main issues I've had.
One of the issues is also going to be, central issues is where the money's going to come from, isn't it? You know, anyone who loves the snooker will be well familiar with the discussion about whether the World Championship's going to move away from Sheffield, you know, and be staged in China or Saudi Arabia. You know, that this is inevitably going to bring money into British racing, and it's very likely going to come from sources who have pots and pots of money, who stage heavyweight, you know, boxing championship fights, have stakes in football clubs, and have money to burn, but don't have a particularly good who have a rotten record when it comes to human rights.
And finally, jockey support. So this is Camilla Henderson who tweeted earlier on this week and said it's something she wants to speak out about and is happy to do so. And we're looking to welcome her onto the show, and hopefully in the next coming weeks to do just that. Obviously, Michael Byrne and now adding to the names of Liam Treadwell and James Banks, who sadly lost their lives in recent times due to suicide. I guess it seems obvious to come to you first of all, Callum. You're a rider riding currently, but there is obviously a correlation here between people who have hung up their boots and are struggling for whatever reason subsequent to race riding with their lives and being willing to take their own lives. Is there enough support out there?
I mean, it's shocking. It really is. Jack and I knew James Banks pretty well. I was fortunate enough to know Liam. I didn't know Michael, but seeing them there in the same photo and knowing what was to come is really tough and very, very sad. Got to say the PGA and things, they put a lot of emphasis nowadays on mental health and support, and we are well supported, and that doesn't stop when we finish riding. I think they're doing as much as they can, and obviously that's getting better probably year in, year out. It might have, whether these guys were necessarily the beneficiaries of that, I don't know. Whether
from a life, I'm sure it's really hard to speak about and to sort of as somebody that's enjoying great success in the saddle now. But for the life of a rider, of a jockey, can you see any sort of reason as to why? That could lead on to something like this post-racing or not?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're looking for links, they're there. It's a demanding job in so many ways. Weight, travel, hate letting people down, and it's of course it's a tough job, and when things aren't going well, and you're doing something you're so passionate about, it's really hard. And then you get these guys, whether they were ready to stop when they did or not. Perhaps they weren't, and then trying to find something to replace that. It's not easy, and those guys had great friends as well. So it's tough, and it's not a link that's very, doesn't make great reading.
Jack?
Obviously, James Banks was a very close friend, and it was obviously shocking at the time, and it's a hard one. Like Callum said, it is so taxing for these guys. They work so hard. They've got the losing the weight, the travelling, and all that sort of stuff. But then also you've got when they do get those highs, and I think the problem is trying to once you've finished your sport. Well, it's normally when the sport's done with you, it's finding something else to fill that void, and I know Dad had a lot of that with ex-footballers, and it's a very similar thing. In his era, there was a lot of ex-footballers that didn't know what to do, and I think it's a similar thing for jockeys. And I think, like I say, I'm sure the PGA obviously do great things for them afterwards, but more the merrier. We need to find more and more things that we can help all of these lads and lasses that are finishing riding. There is a pathway for them to do other things, maybe come into to stay in horse racing or to do something else.
Very happy for your comment, Dave.
Yeah, I can't really add anything useful to what's been said. Obviously, it's tragic. Michael Byrne last weekend at 36, James Banks February 2020 36, Liam Treadwell June 2020 34. Jockeys in their mid-30s with so much to give, and lives cut tragically short.
That is it then for this week's Talking Points. We're saying goodbye to Jack. Thanks very much. You're sticking around. Dave's sticking around as well. May the good start to the season continue. You've obviously hit the ground running, and I don't want to say the pressure's on, but you'd rather be in this position, right?
No, 100%. Look, everyone wants a good start, which thankfully we've managed to achieve. But our ambitions are a lot higher than just a good start. We want to be having big winners on big days, and I'm hoping we've got the tools to take us there. It's just we've got to keep them in the same sort of form, I suppose.
Jack, thanks very much. Good luck for the remainder of the season. There's plenty of it still to come. Plenty more still to come on Luck on Sunday as well. We'll be having a more in-depth chat with Callum and Dave next.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.